Shall we begin?
Let's get started. Hey, Mom, can I have $20?
I gave you $20 yesterday. Hey, this is Stephanie. You already know that I am the owner and director of Futures Academy here in Victoria, Texas. We serve grades 5 through 12, and we are a different kind of school for kids who have not found success elsewhere. Or maybe you've been homeschooled or met up with some difficult times in public school, and mom and dad just need a little extra help for a while. Give us a call. Our number is 361-433-0322, and we will let you know how we can help.
Another one of our sponsors today is Gulf Coast Car Wash. They are family owned and operated for over 25 years in the Crossroads area. They are located at 2901 Sam Houston Drive in Victoria, Texas. Right now, our listeners can get $5 off the deluxe package and the soft touch automatic wash with code 37330. Again, that code is 37330. Check out Gulf Coast Car Wash. All right, welcome to another episode of Can I Have $20? Today's episode is a special release for Father's Day, so we're going to be talking about fathers, our fathers, other dads we know. So once you listen to this episode, comment and tell us a story about your dad, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and go ahead and follow us on those platforms and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts as well. So let's get into it. Mom, tell me about your dad.
Well, my daddy's perfect. Of course.
He is a sweet man.
I don't know that sweet's what I would call him.
Granddad is sweet.
You think so?
He is sweet. Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the reason we call him Granddad is because my mother wanted to be grandmother, and he said, if you're going to be grandmother, I'm going to be grandfather. And I said, that's too hard to put on a gift tag at Christmas. You're going to have to call it something else.
Yeah.
And so it became grandmother and granddad. But I also told him he was going to have to get a cardigan and a monocle and, all these kind of things. And that is so not my dad. My dad, you probably have no memory of ever seeing him in anything but overalls.
I can think of maybe one time, but even for Jason's wedding, when him and Stephanie got married, I think he wore black, nicer overalls.
Right.
And
I've seen him do that a couple of times. The black ones are your nice overalls.
Yeah.
And I mean real overalls, like their roundhouse or whatever they're called, with the little red thing on the front. And
yeah.
that's what he's not always worn. When I was young, he worked in a factory and was mostly on his feet. And so he wore tennis shoes and jeans and a T-shirt with a cigarette pocket because he smoked when I was little. And so... Now, I don't know if he still keeps a pocket on his T-shirts or not, but my dad, one of your dad's friends, described him one time as a very deliberate speaker.
He is. I would say that, too.
Which is to say that he doesn't do a lot of just running his mouth or, just talking to hear himself talk, as he would say. That he is I talk when I have something to say, and he's the kind of person that asks questions, and he reserves judgment, which is one of my favorite things about him.
Well, he truly contributes to a conversation, and that's it.
Yeah.
And thinks that is the purpose of conversation, really.
Yeah.
And I like that about Granddad, because that everything he says is wisdom, thought about. It's not just off the top of his head bullcrap,
Right. He doesn't do a lot of spouting ideas and things like that. He was always... it used to frustrate me to death when I was a teenager and I would ask for something. I want to go to a friend's house, or I, want to go to the dance or whatever. That wasn't an everyday thing. And if I was bugging him, I need to know now. His answer was always, if you need to know now, then the answer is no.
And you told me that, and that used to make me so mad.
I know. But I get it now, because he was saying, until I've thoroughly mulled this over in my mind and I'm comfortable with my decision, then I can't say yes. And I probably would have been less angry if he had told me that.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, tell me about some favorite memories with Granddad, either as a kid or as a teenager. Just some things that got you either tickled or you had a good time.
The ones that pop into your head are so funny and is never the thing you would expect. So my birthday's in the summer, and for my 5th birthday, we went to Six Flags in Arlington. I'd never been there, of course. 5 is pretty young for Six Flags.
Yeah.
When we went, my mother, I guess, had told me it was an amusement park, and the only park I could relate to was like a city park, and I was like,
grandmother's pregnant at this time. On your 5th birthday, Jason was born in December. So
we're 4.5 years apart, so no, he was 6 months old.
Okay, wow.
In fact, I think I remember him staying with my aunt and uncle at the time. Okay. Oh gosh, the memories!
So
wow, go way back
with grandmother and granddad by yourself.
Yes, and so this was a big thing. But anyway, I wanted to go on the swings or whatever when I got there. I think the first thing we rode was the Mexican hat, is what it was called at the time. Big sombrero that But we rode the Shockwave, which was the double loop. Why on earth my parents thought that was acceptable, I don't know. And I'm sure I really wanted to do it. You could see it from over half the park.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that one. But my memory is we sat on that bench, they put the bar down or a seatbelt or whatever it was. And when it started moving, I got scared, and my dad put his arm around me, and I buried my face in his armpit. Oh. And I never saw a thing. I know he said, "Here come the loops," and like gravity did the thing it did, so my chin hit my chest, and I couldn't get my head up. But I was buried right there in my dad's side. Like, I don't remember being terrified. It must have been, or I wouldn't have been in that position.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of them. Another one I remember was a time, and this is kind of scary.
And you said he wasn't sweet.
I know. Another one I remember, and I don't know why this one sticks out. My dad was always a hunter, and so he was a bow hunter, a gun hunter. He fished, an outdoorsman, and he had taught us that safety from a very, very young age, that you don't touch guns and things like that. So one day, I had gone outside to find him. I don't know if supper was ready or something, but I went out to find him. And he used to practice shooting in the driveway. We lived in the country, and he would stand at the street and shoot towards the house. So nobody's in any danger. But I had stepped out from behind the car and yelled, "Dad," before I stepped out. And before I stepped out, the arrow whizzed by. And he didn't know I was there, but I remember him telling me, "Thank you for doing what I asked you to do and calling for me before you stepped out." And I don't remember being afraid or whatever, but I do remember him saying, "You did what you were supposed to," and I appreciate that.
And look, you were safe.
Yes, and I've always been a person who knows that there's rules, and even though I may not always do what I'm supposed to, I try to always do the right thing and reasonable and stuff, and it probably comes from that. My dad's very reasonable, very sensible, doesn't get riled up about much.
Oh, I've never seen him mad.
Very, very level, even keel person.
I'm trying to think. I think I've heard grandmother cuss more than granddad.
My mother doesn't cuss. She cusses about me.
I've heard her say some words. No, but what about your relationship as an adult?
Oh man, it was wonderful. And I need to tell too, for anybody who hasn't heard me say this, I say that I grew up in Mayberry. I grew up in a wonderful middle class home where my family was happy. My parents are celebrating 54 years this year of being happily married. And even as an adult who's been married myself, I still look at them and say their relationship is almost perfect. So you need to understand my relationship with my dad in that context. I never had dad issues. My dad was there. He was a good person. He was kind, and he wanted to teach, and he was there to spend time with us. And so I think I had everything that I needed. So as an adult, there's bound to have been times when it was really hard to still put up with me. I know that there were times when he looked at me and was like, "You have lost your mind." And he never said anything. He never would. If I'd asked, he would have told me. But he very much, I think, believes that you're an adult and your business is your business. And,
He's always been supportive.
Oh, absolutely. I do remember the time I had to call him one morning before work and said, "I've got a flat tire and Brent's already gone to work. Can you come help?" And I think Dad was working in Dallas, and so it was really far away.
Yeah.
And so he came, and I made the joke that it's not too bad. The tire's only flat on the bottom. And he goes, "Yeah, and about halfway up both sides." So he was funny, too, but it's a dry, occasional humor.
He does have that, too, yeah.
I would say it's good now. Dad and I have a lot of respect for each other's knowledge and have both become interested in things and gone on learning quests because the other one said, "Hey, did you know something?"
And I think you've kind of opened up Granddad, made him a little bit more open-minded over the years.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I think you've kind of done that to both grandmother and granddad. So what about some lessons that Granddad has taught you or that maybe you've taught him?
Dad definitely taught me that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I think about that often. He also taught me some real practical things like a car dealership is going to make money on every transaction, not just the sales transactions. Your trade-in, they're going to make money. Everything, they're going to make money. Let's see. What else has he taught me? My parents watch a lot of TV, and I learned about ancient alien theory at their house. You talk about a wormhole. That's one we went down. My dad has always respected my knowledge of the Bible and interpretations of it and my ability to research topics like that. One thing that he and I had in common for a long time was an interest in politics, where I was probably a little more extremist than he was in my beliefs at the time, but that lent itself to a lot of conversations where he said, why you got to be so difficult? Why you got to make this a thing? And I'm like, how are you not making this a thing?
Yeah. I think Granddad kind of went through a couple years of thinking, you are not the person I raised. And I think now he's going, I remember you.
I do well.
I remember you. Yeah.
I've said for a long time that my mother still looks at me and just shakes her head. She doesn't know where she went wrong.
Well, what about your Granddad's relationship with your kids? Do you think that he is the grandparent you hoped he'd be?
Yeah, he probably was not as involved as I would have liked him to be. I have the memories of his dad taking us to the crawfish hole, and that we would go crawfishing, and when he didn't feel like it, he would tell us some outlandish lie. About how, there had been a cave-in. It was like a pond 20 feet wide on top of a hill. And he was like, oh, no, this terrible thing happened. It sunk, and now it's just a hole there. Or, no, it dried up. It hadn't rained here in a long time. And we're like, Pappy, it was raining yesterday. Come on.
Yeah.
But he did do the things that Pappy did for us that just, giving us a hard time. And you'd walk by and he'd yank on your leg, and make you half trip, but he wouldn't let you fall.
Yeah.
One thing he did to me when I was little that he did to y'all, you'd be laying on the floor watching TV, and as he gets up and goes to the kitchen to refill his glass, he's dripping the ice water off the glass onto your leg or whatever. But he did some really great things for y'all. They had a goat because of y'all.
I was going to say, Granddad, the way I remember him from my childhood is very silly.
Yeah.
The goat for sure, letting the goat in the house just to
mess with grandmother.
Oh yeah, and all kinds of things.
And then play dumb. Let her in the house and
what
be
goat?
Like, Jasmine, what are you doing in the house? Yeah.
I haven't seen that goat in days. Yeah. And also, Granddad read books to us in his chair all the time.
Yes.
And that's something I still see him doing with Jason's youngest daughters now.
Yeah.
Is reading the books. And we would bring Granddad books for hours from the playroom. Books and books and books. And we'd just read them and play. And he'd do all the voices and things like that. And, of course, the golf cart rides and...
It's funny. I don't think of him as creative. Of the two, my mother is definitely the more creative one. But I remember Dad telling those stories, too. And if something in the book went hippity-hop, then it would hippity-cross, across your leg or things like that. And I remember him telling those reading stories to me when he was little, too, and the voices. And
yeah.
Boy, those are core memories you don't know you're forming.
Yeah.
As an adult or a child in that situation, you don't know that you're forming those.
Yeah. It's funny that you said the first memories that came to your head were... You don't think that those are core memories until somebody asks you. But some things that are kind of similar about my dad is he was really silly, too.
Yes.
And you probably have a lot more memories of that than I do, because I don't remember all of my childhood. You remember more of it than I do. But it's funny to think about the things that I remember that you don't think were that much of a core memory. Because I remember our first trip to Six Flags, too.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I think so. Circa 2008.
Hey everyone, I'm Autumn.
And I'm Malia.
And we're a part of the Gator Cheer Squad. If you're from a private school without an athletic program, or you're homeschooled, you need to join the Gators. We offer cheerleading, football, and tons of awesome sports with amazing coaches and the best teams around.
Whether you're just starting out or have some experience, there's a place for you. Come make new friends, Have a blast and show off your skills. Sign up now and be a part of something awesome. Follow Victoria Gators on Facebook for more information. Let's go Gators!
You remember that?
Yes, I think so. Circa 2008.
Something. Let's see. I was probably 10, so Dakota was 6, 2006.
Oh, yes. Oh, Six Flags. I was actually thinking SeaWorld. Yes, Six Flags.
So we'd gone to Six Flags.
It was 2008.
And I remember that we got on the Conquistador first, and it's the boat that goes 180 degrees.
Yes.
Two ways. And Dad's bright idea was to get on the back of the boat, on the very back seat, so that when we went up, we're nearly upside down.
Right.
We're sitting on the back row, and they're kind of like pews with bars over them.
Yes.
And we sit in the back corner, and so it's Dad, me, you, and then Sheridan and Dakota were next to you, and they weren't all that scared. But, of course, I'm freaking out. I'm the baby. I'm freaking. And I'm squeezing.
And I am, too. I'm not a fan of big rides, so I'm not the one you're going to lean on.
I'm squeezing both of y'all so hard that I gave one of you bruises. And I know that for a fact because when we got off, there was silence for a second. And you said, "Damn it, Brent, you're traumatized her, and now one of us is bruised." Whoever was bruised. He said, "I'm bruised, you're bruised, whatever." You were all kinds of mad. But I had squeezed y'all so hard. And you just started yelling at Dad.
I was sitting there thinking, I remember that I was mad on this ride. And I didn't know that was the story you were telling. I didn't know what I was mad about. That ride scared the living crap out of me. Because not only were you upside down when it went up, but when it came back, when it came down, you popped out of your seat. Like, your butt is not on that pew.
Yeah.
I just knew we were going to lose Dakota. Just thunk, and you'd be just flying out of the back.
But I remember you were so mad. Another time, around this same time, was the time that Dad took me to the state county fair or whatever, and we rode the zipper, which is that little box that goes in circles while it goes in a big circle.
Yes.
And my flip-flops are flying off. I'm screaming. Dad's laughing the whole time. And I'm getting so mad that he's laughing at me being so scared. But he was silly. He wanted to have a good time, and he was a daredevil like that. Yes. And I was not having a good time, but those are some of my core memories. But some of my other better ones are learning to drive. Dad did most of my teaching me to drive.
Yes.
And also things like tubing at the lake. Those memes that say you haven't lived until you experience this, and it's being whacked off the back of the boat like that. And I say that I was the queen because I think I could hang on.
Oh.
And you tell it different, I know. But I know
I was in the boat.
There was a day that I was hanging on going, I haven't let go all day. And Dad going, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, watch this. Pulling y'all in and out of the wake. And, we had so much fun when I would finally relax. But I saw him as reckless and, not forward thinking. And maybe I was a little bit right. But for the most part, he was so much more in control of his reckless behavior than you would have thought. And I didn't know. But, oh, yeah, if I could ever relax and let myself have fun, he had y'all on the roof of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I want to be on the roof of the house. Y'all want to come up? Come on, let's get up here. And I'm like, what is wrong? And they're going to stomp around in the house and make me come outside. And
now that I'm a mom, I would absolutely not let any of that fly.
That's what you think.
But you know what? I remember when I learned to swim, and Dad did just chunk us off the boat at the lake, and we'll figure it out. Once I learned to swim really, and I learned that Dad was never going to let me fall.
Yeah.
I was always truly safe with Dad. I kind of let more stuff go,
right.
too. But, he did stuff like bringing the snake in my room and making me cry in the corner because I was, no, I'm not getting that snake away from me, Dad, please.
And these are good memories for you. I look back and go, this is what's wrong with Cheyenne.
Because I know that Dad was not going to let a snake hurt me. He wasn't going to really send me into a panic, and I don't need therapy from it,
That is so funny because I was certain that you would.
I did need therapy, but that wasn't why. No, but some of the lessons that Dad taught me, you probably remember a lot of those because you saw them from Dad's side and not mine. Like things in my teen years. I remember there was a point where Dad said, you need to walk around your car every time you get in it. You need to make sure that you don't have a flat tire. You know, you need to be paying attention to your surroundings, because if you get in this car and you have a flat tire and you flip your car, you're dead.
Right.
You know, things like that.
I don't think Dad said that if you had a flat and you flipped your car, you're dead.
He said his version of it.
But I think it was because every freaking time you came home, something else was burned out, knocked off, scratched up, run dry.
All right, scratch that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but he taught me practical things, too.
He did, and honestly, that comes from his truck driving experience and everything, that you have to do a once-over before you get your vehicle, and he was telling you to do that. And that is good practice, and I still do it. I look at my tires when I go to my car.
Did Granddad teach you to drive?
No, but maybe some. He and Mom both did. However, I took driver's ed at school, and we had simulators, and you did part of your driving there. And so I do remember both of my parents teaching me to drive. My dad was the much more calm and patient one. Mom made me nervous, still makes me nervous being in the car, just because she's like me. You know, she thinks that holding the dash is going to save my life.
Oh,
if
I would
get
never
too
drive
close.
grandmother around. I would never.
Notice when we go to Tyler, she drives. There's a reason for that. I don't mind so much anymore. I'm finally old enough that I think I'm okay driving with my mom in the car. I drove my grandmother around. No, but my dad was one who taught me, and he did teach me to drive a stick, because I don't even know if my mom can drive a stick. But when I bought my first standard transmission, he did teach me that. And I remember you talked about him being silly, and I thought, where are you even getting this? But I had gone, it was a 5-speed, and I had gone from fourth back to third instead of to fifth. And he goes, hello, third gear. And that was just so out of character. It was like, okay, I got it. Oh, man.
That is so funny.
You know, your dad taught all of you the basics of driving. Get in the car, turn it on, get it moving down the road, and the basic things. I think because I was kind of scared too. He was much more of a, let's just get it out there and see what happens. And, you know, I felt like it needed to be much more methodical or something. But he did the big stuff, and then I did the finer points, because for all his talking about being a professional driver, he didn't follow all the rules, and he wasn't super attentive to someone saying, okay, you have to come to a complete stop at this red light. And so he always got y'all going, and I always did the smaller stuff. And like, I mostly taught you to drive a standard because I was there.
I was going to say, Dad went out of town as soon as we got the car.
I was just the one that had the time.
Yeah, and same thing with Dakota. I think teaching him to drive, you did most of that too. I remember Dakota driving with you the most. But, you know, there was a point where after Dad died, Dakota and Sheridan and I were all talking about Dad driving in the car with us, and we had that moment of saying, did he say that to all of us? Why won't you listen to me? I'm a professional driver.
Oh, yeah.
And that became the big joke that, hey, he's a professional driver. He knew what he was doing. But, so we talked about Granddad's relationship with your kids and your relationship with your grandfather. And I obviously don't get that. But Cade's stepdad loves River so much. And he kind of did a lot of raising Cade. He was around for a lot of his years. And, you know, we love Cade's dad, but his stepdad is a big part of the family. But sometimes I'm like, that old man is so soft for that baby, because he'll say, where is she? I brought her some cookies. I'm like, who is this guy?
Man,
but dads get so soft for their kids and grandkids.
I was going to say, there is nothing that will, you know, bring a man to his knees as much as a little kid. You know, people, you've seen that thing that says, I don't care how big, how burly, how tough you are. When a 2-year-old hands you a pretend telephone, you answer it. Because we are all subject to their powers.
Yeah, exactly.
But dads especially, this is kind of a sad story, but when I was teaching in public school that first year, the teacher next to me lost her 6-year-old daughter in a freak brain parasite infestation is what it was. But I remember telling my dad, because they think she got it gardening with her dad. And I said, I don't know how you could ever garden again. And my dad said, I don't know how you could ever get out of bed again. Losing a daughter is a special thing. And I'd never heard him say that. But looking back, I can see it over and over and over, where I felt treasured and those things. And you clearly did too, that you knew you were special, and all of y'all fought over who was the favorite because you did all get treated well and things like that. What other lessons did you learn from him?
You know, I keep trying to think of some that aren't traumatizing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. What are some I've dealt with in therapy already?
You know, some things that Dad did teach me, though, is a lot of emotional stuff, really. I'm tougher than this. I'm capable of this. And I think he really taught me a lot of that when he got me into running.
Yeah.
And I remember the summer that we first did that was at Grandma's house, and we ran down her back road. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed doing that with him. I enjoyed knowing what my body can do, that I just ran a mile, and I'm 10 years old. How cool is that? It took us an hour, but you know.
But you did it.
But I did it, yeah.
And he wouldn't let you stop, and I know that.
Yes, and I've told you that years later, that once I was tired and I was like, oh, no, I'm tougher than this. I'm capable. I've done it before. I can keep going. And I use that in everything now.
Right.
You know, whether it's a drive home, a long drive home, or a day of work, whatever. I can do this. I've done it before. I'm capable. There's nothing stopping me except for what I'm telling myself, that I'm tired, whatever.
Yes, he definitely believed that your brain is more powerful than your body. Mm-hmm. A lot of his adages and things that he said came from the Marines, like pain is just weakness leaving the body. Mm-hmm. And he would say that stuff, and I'd roll my eyes going, oh my God, you and your Marine brainwashing drama. But it was really true, because every pain I experience is something that I've overcome. It's a challenge that I've met. And that mental toughness is very much part of him, that nothing's going to get me down just because it says it will.
Well, like I said, he even pushed that onto me into emotional things. I mean, you know, I went through something traumatic in my teen years, and for a while felt like I was broken and I'm not capable of surviving life, surviving society, whatever. And Dad really pushed no, but you've been doing it. You're still doing it.
You're already doing it.
You're already doing it, and you're telling yourself you can't, you know. And I really think that's how I got to where I am today. Happy.
And that's good in dealing with those things as they come head on, and knowing that you've got that support, and also that you didn't have daddy issues either.
I didn't. And also, he taught me that you need to deal with your demons. Whatever is keeping, which, ironic, but...
Yeah.
That I needed to deal with those things to get through.
You know this now, and I hope your brother and sister know it too, that so many of the things that he was hardest on y'all about were the things that he didn't love about himself. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that he couldn't overcome every challenge that came his way, and that he felt weak towards certain things, is why he would hit y'all so hard with that, when he was yelling at you to stop being weak and, you know, buck up and all this. But it was because I don't want to see you doing what I'm doing. I don't want to see you with this weakness that I have. And he did that with Sheridan and Dakota too, you know. And yet we also always saw that y'all also had all the best parts of us.
Yeah.
You know, you got my good looks. But Dad's sense of humor, you know, Dad's the one that taught me to be funny.
Well, and things like being a hard worker. You know, I was actually telling Kate the other day, that's one thing that my dad really drilled into us, was being a hard worker. And when I saw that in Kate, I knew that was something that I wanted in my partner. Someone who I knew would work hard to provide for not only his family, but for himself, and want a good reputation for the work that he put out. You know, he knew that was important, and that was something my dad taught me to respect. And yes. I've carried that through life too as well.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I have I value a good work ethic, specifically in a man, someone who wants to take care of their family, and I think that probably comes from my dad as well. And it wasn't voiced, it was just what he did.
Well, and even as with friends too, Brooklyn and I, just her as an example, because we've been coworkers before, but we have both talked before about how it's so frustrating to notice it in someone else when they don't have that.
Yes.
So all this to say that, you know, dads aren't perfect, but they do what they can, and we should celebrate the good ones, and they should be treasured.
You know, if you're somebody out there on this Father's Day who doesn't have a great dad, it's okay to say, I didn't have a great dad, and it's okay to not feel the need to play that role and send that card and those things. It is not okay to not find healing for yourself if you need it. But those of you that did have a good dad, or still do have a good dad like I do, make sure that you say the words that need to be said while you can still say them. Enjoy the time with your dad today if you have him, and if you don't, I hope you can find some peace and love today in your own family.
Thanks for listening. Y'all have a wonderful week, and please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen on podcasts. Thanks for listening. Hey, Mom, who are you calling?
Hang on, I'm calling my dad. Hey, Dad, can I have $20?